YouTube, Awesome Rider here. Welcome to the start of my annual What I Want to See From videos. Every year for Rider, Sentai, and PR, I talk about what I'd like to see this year and beyond, as the title suggests, in true Buzz Lightyear fashion. So I think Rider's going to be pretty much like more of a simple one, because obviously with Sentai we got the big anniversary coming up, probably a 2-year celebration that they'll then take past that, and we'll just somehow be perpetually celebrating the 50th anniversary. And then, of course, Power Rangers has the big movie news, you know, whether it'll happen or not, who knows, but obviously gives us some bigger stuff to talk about. Whereas, as far as I know, we're not really close to a Rider anniversary. It's hard to tell. I mean, we are about to celebrate the 17-week anniversary of Gav starting, so we need to get that anniversary movie together. I'm pretty sure there's not, at least not in the nearest future, so I don't think we have to worry about that. I am going to bring some stuff up about that, but we'll see. But as far as the show, thankfully, as of this recording, we're in a good spot. Gav has really turned it around for me personally, compared to how much I enjoyed Gotchard. You know, who knows? Maybe I'll be eating crow, and we'll end up having the series nosedive from here, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think at worst, maybe it would be like middling, but I still don't see that happening. So I would say, just as a very general thing, I just hope they keep up what they're doing. I'd like to see them be more experimental, which is what I'll get to, and is a point I've made previously. In fact, going in to make this video, I'm like, a lot of these points is just the same thing. Like, one thing I thought of is like, I wish they'd stop doing not returns movies, but like V-cinemas when it's not needed, like with Build. I'm like, that should have just ended with Build. To be fair, I haven't watched them, but it's like, sometimes you don't have to dig it up for premium Bandai stuff. I know it's for the money making, but it drives me nuts. It also reminds me of like video games where there's like so much DLC after. I'm like, once I'm done with the game, I just want to be done. You know when I want to play the game again? When the sequel comes out. Anyway, that was a little mini rant. In general, setting aside the experimental thing I'm going to talk about in a minute, just as far as Gav, I think Gav is a good example of largely sticking on formula, but making it unique in its own ways. I think there is some structural things and some things about the narrative and, of course, the theme that gives it its own flavor, no pun intended, because of the food theme. But that was kind of my problem with Gotchard, is I felt like it lacked its own identity. It felt like a series of Rider cliches. So, honestly, just based off of my terrible experience with Gotchard, if we could just keep things like Gav, that would be great. Where it's, yeah, it's on formula, but it's still very solid. And the one thing I want to see kept from Gav, which I want to praise, I know I compared it to Gotchard a lot in this respect, but not just Gotchard, lots of Rider from the modern times. Like, I remember as far back as 01 for sure, since I started doing these episode reviews, is I love the pacing for the ability forms. Again, that's not just a problem Gotchard had, although Gotchard did it even weirder, where they would debut a new form and then transform into the previous form to finish the episode off. It was so weird. Anyway, I hate to keep harping on it, but my point is that's been a problem outside of Gotchard. It's been a problem for a while, where they shotgun these forms, and obviously the ability forms don't need a big storyline like the super forms and the final forms, but I think when you do them back to back to back, it makes them like not as memorable. So then as a result, I think if you can make them more memorable and give them a little bit of something like a story or a memorable debut, it makes you want to buy the toy more. Like, thus far, not only have they spaced out Gav's debuts, where I think there's only been one time so far where they've had a back-to-back debut. Like, they legitimately give it time to breathe. Like, you debut Potato Chip, you debut Marshmallow, and then the next episode gets to showcase it further before you move on to the next one. But they also have had some sort of small narrative thing or something to make it memorable, whether it's like the sweet couple that was involved with the Marshmallow one, or like the way that his mom was connected to the snacks and the potato chips, or I think the chocolate one had the least story, but it was memorable because it's tied to being Balan's form as well. So keep that pacing. That's definitely something I wish they take from Gav, as long as we have ability forms. It makes the show feel so much better too, and obviously we know the main reason for these shows is to sell toys, but it's nice to not always be reminded of that. So I hope they keep that, and just keep up what we're doing with Gav in general. Now, these next two things are just things that I often say, is that I'd love for them to have more variety in the protagonists. Shoma has been great in the sense that he is that type of character we've been getting, definitely cut from the same cloth, but shows me that you can have one that's actually likable and balanced, where you can do the fun, silly stuff, and of course giving a better narrative reason for him to be so quirky, but also can be serious. So I do like Shoma. I'm not like wanting to do away with his character, but I just wish we would have more variety. It would make it seem less repetitive. You know, following Sentai and Rider is a very repetitive thing in general, but when you have so many of the characters feeling the same, I wish we could at least get like 2 or 3 templates and then shuffle between those, instead of like having that same like core template we have, and then every once in a while you get a Geats type character. And also, speaking of that, even though I like Geats being a break from that specialist boy character, we gotta stop the main character worship. That's something I would love to see, is a series where, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5 writers, or even just 2 writers, where you have differing philosophy and you can acknowledge like, hey, both of their approaches are valid, let's learn from each other, instead of everyone falling in line behind the main character like a cult. Because even though Geats was kind of that douchey protagonist and not a specialist boy, like wide-eyed character, he still ended up being specialist boy his way or the highway. Now, the other thing is, I think I mentioned this in last year's video, maybe the year before that, but I would love for Rider to get more experimental. I know it's more risky for them because Rider's more of a proven performer compared to Sentai, so they don't want to deviate too much, but I'd love for us to do like what Sentai did from like Zenkaiger to King Oger roughly, like maybe 2, 3, 4 years where it's not like I'm asking you to go balls nuts for every year, but be a little more experimental, different formulas, try some different things, have it feel a little different, some different designs, you know, maybe even go back to some older formulas we haven't seen in a while. I wouldn't mind going for a couple years where we had like what was Double Through Wizard, where we only really had 2 writers, you know, like in the main series, obviously had other stuff, or I would love, and this would probably never happen, to have a 1-writer series again. I mean, I don't even care if you go balls nuts with the forms, you know, go balls out with it, you know, go full balls out with all the forms. Like have him have a bajillion forms for the marketing, you know, but it would be really cool to see that. Like I would just like to see a little bit of a change to the formula. I know it's risky for them, but just take a couple years experimental, kind of like Sentai did, you know, take a little vacation doing some experiments and then you can go back to formula, but not back to Gotchard formula. One other just very small thing I'd like to see, which isn't like something that I'm like, I have to see it, but I think it would be cool if in a future series they brought back like food droids. I was recently going through some of my old collection stuff at my parents' house and I pulled down, I think the burger food droid for a retro review, and I'm like, I miss these. These were fun. Like I don't want it to become repetitive where you get sick of them, but I think that would be something fun to bring back. And then I guess lastly is, again, as you'll probably remind me, there's probably going to be like, it's going to be the quarterfinalist anniversary of regionals or something in the comments. But as far as I know, we're not like getting an anniversary next year or something. I just hope they don't do the same mistake I think Sentai is doing for me, which is don't do any more anniversary content outside of the movies. I know that they're already, the movies are a lost cause. It's a mess over there. But with the show, like in between now and whatever they're doing for their next anniversary series, whether they're going to wait for 10 years of Reiwa and do a Geo Decade style series, or if they're going to do like an overall anniversary thing for the franchise since Kamen Rider 1, whatever you do, again, the movies are a lost cause, but in the show, don't do anything, or do very bare minimum. I don't want to see another Legend. I don't want to see Legend show up. I don't want to see anything like that, just because I think it's going to make it less special. I still don't know why really they did Legend. People said it was to celebrate the 5th anniversary of Reiwa, but I never saw anything being like celebrating the 5th anniversary of Reiwa. They're just like, here's Legend because. Like, that was such a cool idea and a character that I think they should have saved, maybe for the 10th anniversary of Reiwa, or whatever they're wanting to do. But I think that the mistake Sentai has made is, like, obviously I'm a unique case in the sense that I've been tired of anniversary content since Superhero Taisen. But even just in this gap between Zenkaiger and Gojuja for Sentai, they've had some sort of returning character element literally every season since. So now it's making it feel like the anniversary didn't even leave, like they walked out the door and turned right back around, like they never even left the property. So I hope that like they don't do anything major in the series itself in between now and the next anniversary, so that when we do get another anniversary series, it doesn't feel like we've been even more saturated than usual. But yeah, that's just my things for Rider. What do you want to see out of Rider going into 2024 and beyond? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.